Welcome to episode 5 of the Stories of Kcymaerxthaere. This one's called 5.5. The Yaarayehyay. Beautiful, graceful, very strong, acrobatic, huge, vast wingspan. These are the 5.5 winged birds that can fly not just through space, but through time and Kcymaerxthaere. And Kcymaerxthaere is a quality of existence as different from time and space as they are from each other. But what makes Kcymaerxthaere a little bit special, and there are actually many dimensions of Kcymaerxthaere, but there's a dimension that's very important, which is almost like leaving trails. The same way if you look at a hillside and there's a path that the shepherds always take, or people hike up, and it's just kind of this well-worn, very light, not really formal, but just beautifully there. Or the way the gullies come down a hillside and the rain always finds the same paths. And so it's kind of a path of least resistance, like paths on the side of time, or through a few of the more mysterious dimensions of space. And these trails, and there are many other aspects of Kcymaerxthaere, but the trails are especially important here. They allow for certain kinds of travel. They can support things. So like the gellerns, those beautiful dirigibles that are filled with water. And the same is true of the Yaarayehyay. When they fly places, they have a lot of adventures here on Earth, but they're also able to carry these huge stones, and they're pretty big themselves. But they're these nail-bait words they collect and carry, and they're able to do that in part because they know this aspect of Kcymaerxthaere so well. It even lets them fly to the moon, and they are in fact they're breathing air, but they are able to use these pathways. They even go to distant stars at times. They would love the gorges like a Brosiantha, or the valleys of what we call the Himalayas, and the people and all sorts of creatures would gather just to see the huge birds wheeling, and the wingspans, some would say, went from one mountaintop to the other, but by tucking and rolling and making all these great maneuvers, they would have a grand old time. And then on top of that, they would be always looking. The reason why they were flying all these places, always looking for shape words, for nail-bait words, particularly Bejwa nail-bait. And one of the reasons they wanted them is for nesting materials. And therefore the words themselves started to become important. Like we did our nesting grounds installation at a beautiful place on the southern coast of Java, along the Indian Ocean. The nests themselves had moral lessons, like the word fleeting and glory. And then not far from there was a Wayang village. And a lot of fans of the Yaarayehyay out there. And we asked the folks in the Wayang village. The Wayang is a Indonesian word for shadow or shadow puppet. And so this is their interpretation of it. Isn't it just great? We told them what the Yaarayehyay were like, and we asked them to do their interpretation. You can see that it has the 5 wings, and here's the half wing. Kind of guides the Yaarayehyay through time and space in Kcymaerxthaere. But what's really great is there's also part of the way the community in that village keeps these traditional crafts alive, because the shadow puppets are really some of the most early forms of cinema, you could say. It's not literally the case, but the idea of an image being cast on the wall that tells a story, and oftentimes the storytellings would go on for hours. And you can also see it's been depicted with this shape word, village, the one that means the place where the dreams of imaginary creatures come to life. So at that Wayang village, we actually had the privilege of installing another stone, which was the word commitment. And actually, commitment is kind of a weak translation of this word. It actually means to commit utterly, to give of oneself. And as such, it was a very popular word for a nest, especially since the particular word stone once found here had a very compelling origin. It was quite possibly part of the necklace of life of Fentangate, who was an amazing leader and is a whole other story in himself. But in many cultures of Kcymaerxthaere, because of the power of these words and how they became the common language, some people would spend their entire lives working on a necklace of life. And this necklace would have words that represented all sorts of things: ambitions, regrets, dreams, values, all sorts of things, and that would be their necklace. Other people and creatures would wait till the end of their life, and in the last few years you would spend your time. Therefore, it's very risky. It was very tragic when someone was not able to complete that necklace of life. And there were many ways that these necklaces were, I don't want to say disposed of, but they were returned to the world, you might say. Some folks would give their necklace to loved ones. Others would gather it and then insist that it be scattered to the world, so all those values and words could be out there as well. And what happened often with those is that the words themselves would kind of grow, and sometimes their meanings would contort, sometimes they'd be stronger than ever. And so because of all these necklaces of life and the way that they return the words and their meanings to the world, there are actually a fair number of the shape words out there for the Yaarayehyay to collect. And so this actually led to another task of theirs. And this is one that was both a blessing and a curse, which was that they had to bring words that could fill a puzzle that was on the surface of the moon. And because they could fly there, they could bring them there. But they weren't always fitting precisely right, because everybody's pronunciation of these words could be different. Because remember, people could also psychoform words on land, not just in the water. And so everything was a little bit different. They would have to fly there with the word and then try to put it and see if it's exactly the right shape, size, shape, form, accent, all those things. All the while knowing that there was a very real possibility the puzzle, the mystery, should never be solved, or maybe couldn't be solved, any more than character itself can be solved. Shof Keppel Poets.